#the Ouija board. Hello everyone. Before we dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you never miss an update. Now let's get into the tale. It was a dark, chilly night, perfect for a gathering that involved scaring each other silly. Jake, Emily, and Liam, three high school friends, had gathered at Emily's house for a sleepover. Emily's parents were out of town, leaving the teenagers to their own devices. "We should do something really scary tonight," Jake suggested, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "Like what?" Emily asked, half interested, flipping through a magazine. Liam reached into his backpack and pulled out an old, dusty Ouija board. "How about this?" Emily raised an eyebrow. "You actually have one of those things?" "Yeah, found it in my grandma's attic," Liam replied. "Come on, it'll be fun." "Or are you too scared?" Emily rolled her eyes but agreed. #the Ouija. They set up the board on the coffee table in the living room, lit a few candles for ambiance, and dimmed the lights. "Okay, let's do this," Jake said, placing his fingers on the planchette. Emily and Liam followed suit. "Is anyone there?" Liam asked, his voice trembling slightly. For a few moments, nothing happened. They exchanged nervous glances, about to give up. When the planchette slowly moved to yes, Emily's heart raced. "Who are you?" she asked. The planchette spelled out ANNA. "Anna, do you know us?" Jake questioned. "YES." Emily shivered. "What do you want?" KILL. The room's temperature seemed to drop and a cold breeze blew out the candles. They were plunged into darkness, save for the moonlight filtering through the window. "Guys, this isn't funny," Emily said, her voice shaking. "It's not us," Jake insisted, his face pale. The planchette moved again, faster this time. RUN. Before they could react, the sound of footsteps echoed from the hallway. They turned to see a shadowy figure approaching, its form barely discernible in the dim light. The figure stopped at the edge of the living room, and they could see the outline of a woman with long, dark hair and a flowing dress. "Who are you?" Liam demanded, his voice barely above a whisper. The figure didn't respond but continued to move closer. As it approached, the air grew colder, and the feeling of dread intensified. The figure reached out a hand, pointing directly at Emily. "Get out of my house!" Emily screamed, jumping to her feet. Jake and Liam followed suit, knocking over the board in their haste. They ran out of the house, not stopping until they were outside, gasping for breath. They huddled together on the front lawn, looking back at the house, expecting the figure to follow. But nothing happened. The house remained silent and still. "What the hell was that?" Jake panted. "I don't know, but I'm not going back in there," Emily said, her eyes wide with fear. They decided to stay outside until Emily's parents returned the next morning. When they did, Emily tried to explain what happened, but her parents dismissed it as an overactive imagination. Weeks passed, and the friends tried to move on, but the experience haunted them. Strange things continued to happen around Emily's house. Objects moved on their own, whispers echoed through the halls, and cold spots appeared randomly. One night, Emily woke to find the Ouija board back on the coffee table, the planchette spelling out ITSNOTOVER. The next day at school, the trio couldn't stop talking about what had happened. They tried to make sense of it, but nothing added up. Jake suggested that they research the history of the board and the name Anna. Emily and Liam agreed, hoping to find some answers. They met at the library after school and began their search. They discovered that the house Emily lived in had a dark past. In the early 1900s, a young girl named Anna had lived there. She was rumored to have been involved in occult practices and was found dead under mysterious circumstances. Some said she was murdered. Others believed she had taken her own life. The trio found an old photograph of Anna in an archived newspaper. Her face sent chills down their spines. She was the same figure they had seen in Emily's living room. "This is insane," Emily whispered. "We have to get rid of that board." Jake nodded in agreement. "We should burn it." That night they gathered in Emily's backyard, the Ouija board in hand. They doused it in lighter fluid and set it ablaze. The flames roared to life, consuming the board quickly. The friends watched in silence, hoping this would put an end to their ordeal. As the fire died down, a sense of relief washed over them. They returned to the house, convinced that the nightmare was finally over. But that night, Emily had a vivid, horrifying dream. She was in her living room, the same cold air enveloping her. Anna stood before her, but this time, her face was twisted in rage. "You think you can get rid of me?" she hissed. "You belong to me now." Emily woke up screaming, her heart pounding in her chest. She glanced at the clock, 3:33 a.m. She got up and went to the bathroom to splash water on her face. As she looked into the mirror, she saw Anna's reflection behind her. Emily spun around, but the room was empty. She was losing her mind. She ran to her bedroom, grabbed her phone, and called Jake. "Jake, she's here. Anna's here," Emily cried. "Calm down, Emily. It was just a bad dream," Jake tried to reassure her. But deep down, he felt the same fear. The next few days were a blur. Emily was plagued by nightmares, and the strange occurrences in her house intensified. Objects would fly across the room, whispers echoed in the dead of night, and cold spots appeared more frequently. Jake and Liam were also affected. They both experienced horrifying visions of Anna and felt an oppressive presence following them everywhere they went. They knew they had to do something to end this once and for all. Desperate, they sought out a local paranormal expert, Mrs. Whitmore. She was a recluse, known for her knowledge of the occult. They explained their situation, and she agreed to help. Mrs. Whitmore performed a cleansing ritual at Emily's house. She burned sage, chanted incantations, and placed protective talismans in each room. The atmosphere in the house seemed to lighten, and the friends felt a glimmer of hope. But that night, Emily had another dream. She was in a dark, endless void, Anna's voice echoing all around her. "You can't escape me," Anna whispered. "You will suffer as I have suffered." Emily woke up drenched in sweat, her mind racing. She knew they had to find a way to communicate with Anna, to understand what she wanted. Reluctantly, they decided to use the Ouija board again, hoping to find answers. They gathered in Emily's living room, the remnants of the burnt Ouija board before them. Mrs. Whitmore agreed to join them, sensing the seriousness of their plight. She guided them through the session, and the planchette began to move. "Anna, what do you want from us?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. "Revenge," the planchette spelled out. "Revenge for what?" Jake asked. "Thelies," came the reply. "What lies?" Liam questioned. "Killedme," the board spelled out slowly. Emily's blood ran cold. "Who killed you, Anna?" "AGR," the planchette moved, pointing to Mrs. Whitmore. The room fell silent, everyone staring at the elderly woman. Mrs. Whitmore's face turned ashen. "It wasn't me," she whispered. "It was my ancestor. Anna was wronged by my family." A cold wind blew through the room, extinguishing the candles. Anna's figure materialized before them, her eyes blazing with fury. "Your bloodline must pay," she hissed. Suddenly, Mrs. Whitmore convulsed and collapsed to the floor. Emily, Jake, and Liam watched in horror as her body twisted and contorted. The old woman let out a blood-curdling scream before falling limp. Anna's spirit turned its gaze to the trio. "Your friend's blood has satisfied my vengeance, but beware. Any attempt to summon me again will bring doom upon you." With that, Anna's figure dissipated, leaving the room eerily silent. Emily, Jake, and Liam sat in stunned silence, processing what had just happened. They knew they could never speak of this to anyone, and they made a pact to never use a Ouija board again. Years passed, and the trio went their separate ways, but the memory of that night haunted them forever. Emily eventually moved out of her childhood home, unable to bear the memories it held. Jake and Liam stayed in touch, their bond forever forged by the shared terror of that fateful night. And though they never spoke of it again, each of them knew deep down that the spirit of Anna still lingered, watching and waiting, ready to unleash her wrath upon those who dared to disturb her peace. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more.